Hello everyone, we welcome you all to this Big Tech Tuesday webinar on Cloud Data Marketplace REST Accelerator Pack. Today's speaker is Bhavisha, who's a lead product specialist. Before we start the session, let's go through some of the housekeeping tips. The webinar is for 1 hour that includes 15 minutes Q&A. You can post your queries in Q&A box which will be answered at the end of the presentation. All participants will be muted during the presentation. The session will be recorded and it will be available on our InfoSupport YouTube channel and Success Portal where you can download the slide deck. Please feel free to submit your suggestion or feedback for this session in the post-webinar survey. The Success Portal is a micro-learning platform that offers free, unlimited learning to all the registered users. This feature-rich platform helps you learn and adopt to Informatica products better. The following are few important links that you can go over later. This will help you in your product adoption journey with Informatica. Over to you, Bhavish. Thank you.
Hi everyone, thank you for the introduction. Here we are going to introduce you to CDMP REST API, and then we will have a CDMP services in CEI, or how do we design or develop CDMP service in CAI. Then we will have a brief introduction of sample use case that could be developed in the CAI for CDMP. And we will discuss in detail for solution and the design principle of the solution that could help you to fully utilize the solution, and then we will have the demo following our Q&A session. Informatica Cloud Data Marketplace exposes REST API functionality to integrate and manage assets on the marketplace. These APIs are described in the guide that the link you see in the PPT. In this guide, you would have various categories and different section on those categories with huge set of query parameter. If someone has already explored, you would see that there are many huge number of APIs for various other different use cases and different sections with every API having more than 20 query parameters. So in order to consume this REST API, a process needs to be developed in the Informatica Cloud Application Integration app. Once the process is developed and published, those API can be called via any external tool or program. Till I have used most of the customers using Postman, but probably some people also have seen using a client program to consume those API, like Python or something. Let's go next to as I explained, right, like this APIs, I want to make sure that you understand that this API cannot be consumed directly by any external tool or program. This CDMP, all CDMP APIs has to be developed in CAI, and then CAI exposes the endpoint that could be consumed by any external program. So let's be clear with that, right? No CDMP API can be consumed directly by any external tool or program, but no CDMP no CDMP API can be consumed directly by any program. It has to be developed in CAI, and then CAI expose that endpoint for the program or tool. Moving to the next slide. So these are the brief list of APIs that CDMP exposes to consume, starting with various data collection setting API, where you can define the various data collection settings. There you have the categories, delivery formats, delivery method, and templates. These settings are used in collection when we create a collection. So there are various APIs that we can create, various API that we can use to define those settings. Manage data marketplace content. So there are elements, assets, and collection API. Then there are the managed data collection request. So data collection requests are on the orders and the consumer accesses. So for that, we have data collection requests, orders, consumer accesses, and there are various miscellaneous APIs. To understand these APIs, like let me take you to the document so that you get friendly with how the document is formatted, so that you can utilize it once we have the um, post presentation and when you're developing your CAI endpoints. So here is the documentation. You see that these are the different sections that we discussed now on the PPT. Then there are other sections for each category. In the category section, you have different endpoint like create category, retrieve category, modify category. And each of these endpoints will have detailed documentation for the method and the request and example and what should be the response like. Let me take you to one of the endpoint. Let's say orders. So order has retry orders, approve order, reject order, fulfill order, and cancel order. When we look at the endpoint and the method, you will see that what could be the endpoint to retrieve the orders and what would be the method that you should be using to retrieve orders. Here you can see when you click on the request, there will be various query parameters that you can utilize with your request. Order IDs, collection IDs, order created by, status category IDs, owners, date from and date to. So these are all the parameters, and you will see these different parameters for the different endpoints. Moving back to PPT. Next. So how do we develop these endpoints? To develop this endpoint, we need to go to CAI and define a system service in the process. And in the system service, we will have the input fields and output fields. It will also have the actions. We need to make sure that we define or we choose the execute data marketplace API as the action. In input field, we have HTTP method, relative path, payload, query parameters, and path variable. Output field, we will have the data marketplace response. In input field, as you see, the HTTP method and relative path is required, but other parameters are not mandatory. Moving next to the input fields. So as I said, HTTP method is required and relative path is required. In HTTP method, you would be defining the method as a get, put, a post, and relative path we will be providing the path of the endpoint that we have observed and we have already that is already documented in the document and in the request and endpoint section you will see different endpoint for or the path for various API. Then we have a payload. It's just JSON payload will be sent from the data marketplace API using put or post. Then there are query parameters. We already seen the query parameters that are in the documentation. So those are for further filtering down your request to a specific need. Then there are path variables that will be used for building up your API path. So let me showcase the sample use case so that you understand the development effort of CDMP API in CAI. So here you are seeing very simple endpoint where we are trying to retrieve the order with status. And you see that we have start and system service, and the system service will have the input field, the output field, and the actions. Then there is the assignment to output. As you see here in the Execute Data Marketplace API, the input fields are kept. Input fields for input fields, HTTP method is get, and relative path is orders, and query parameters is defined in the right hand side screenshot where you see that in status is input dot status value. So a status value could be a hard coded, or you can pass it from a postman request if you are looking for specific status, and if you want to parameterize the status value. So every query parameter is defined in format of XML, where you will have the tags like query params, and then name of the parameter and value of the parameter. And when you want to describe the more parameters, you keep following the query params tag, start and end, and providing name and value in the query params. So once you design this process, you got to publish this process, and that once you publish, it will be providing you the endpoint that you can request on. So right now I cannot show with the screenshot, but once we do the demo, I'll show you how do we publish the process, CAI process, and where to copy the endpoint. So here you are looking at the postman request for the sample use case where I'm trying to retrieve the order with status. And when I publish on here, when I publish the CAI process, I get the endpoint that I have highlighted on the top with the post, and then there is a body. It's a parameterized value, status value, and I'm trying to send the request with the status value approved. And once I request that, you see the response that I've got is like 10 approved order. So I can change the value, status value as a complete or in progress, and send the request here, and it will be fetching those order for me, like those order with the status that I need. It will be fetching for me. So this is a sample use case that I've tried to explain so that you get familiarized with the development effort on the CAI. So what CDMP Accelerator pack would help you with? CDMP Accelerator pack provides access to all CDMP APIs with development effort. It is well-structured payload it has very well-structured payload, reduces the struggle of implementing individual APIs for the different use cases of the same API with different kind of parameters. So what you would do is just import the pre-built CAI project for different categories, import the postman collection of the same category, and you will have the ready to use endpoint for CDMP where you can fetch the various data with different parameters without any development effort. Let me show the some of the same screenshot that can help you. So how once you import the CAI, let's say this is the order API. Once you import the CDMP order API in CAI, you will see that there are various system services that is designed here. One is retrieve order, approve order, reject order. There will be fulfill order. So all those, this is how the order API will look like, which has all the section implemented. And we publish this API, we publish this process from CAI, and for same order API, we would have the Postman collection where you would see that the action retrieve orders or the any different kind of actions, let's say fulfill, uh, approved, cancel. So those are different action, and we'll have a different query parameters. Let's say data collection IDs and the status. So here we are fetching doing the retrieve orders for specific data collection ID, which has status complete. Now, why, or let's say, why REST Accelerator pack is useful or reduces the effort of development. It is the payload structure gives you freedom of defining the action, and it gives you freedom of building the query, any query parameters, how many ever query parameters you want to put without having those develop into the CAI. Let's say today you want to just get the status of some complete, approved, or in progress, but tomorrow you want to add some more query parameters. So say between date range, like date from and date to, you can keep on adding those query parameters into query params based on your need without changing anything in the CAI. So CAI project stays as it is without touching any of, or without doing any implementation part. You can keep changing your use case or keep developing your endpoint with various other parameters and the action or path params without having to make any changes into the CAI project. Let me take you to the demo so that you will understand how the endpoint look like in CAI and how do we publish it and how do we consume it in the Postman. So let's move to endpoint. Let's go to CAI. So you can see the informatic application integration app. There I have this CDMP order, that is, once you import, you would see this CDMP orders with project, order API project, and all these. There is no need to implement anything here. This is only order and order API where you would see that you would already see that there is a retrieve order, approve order, there's a reject order. All this is system services implemented, and what we do is here property details, and this is your endpoint for to consume from external application. Now, once you import this AI project, you can probably explore how this is designed and you can play around with it. But for now, we would not recommend any of the changes here. It's ready to use, and you can start using the collection from on the Postman. So once you publish, you know the endpoint here, and you may have to probably uh, yeah, you may have to probably add the allowed user here. So once we have this, it is imported, published. Then you can go to the Postman and import the Postman collection for orders, and you will see all this readily available Postman collection and yeah, Postman collections. Let's try request or retrieve orders. For the retrieve orders, this is defined as a variable. You do not have to worry about it. This is the endpoint that uh, we have published. We got it from the published process in the CAI. Once we have that, as I explained you the uh, payload, we see that there is action retrieve orders, then there's a data collection ID, and then there's shares complete. Now, the data collection ID is very specific to one of the collection where we want to fetch all the orders, which is complete status. Once we run send this request, you see that the total count is 3. Let me change this and say total count 3. Let me say in progress. Okay, pending. You see that there is a total count 1, which is pending. So here all these different kind of actions already prepared for you once you import this collection. So how these sections are designed in Postman, it's like each category, like order category, has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 system service. So for each of these, we define the system service in the CAI, and same way we have the collection. When you import the order collection, you'll have all these 4 actions or 5 actions uh, uh, imported for you, and that you can play around with different parameters. Same way we will have for the data elements, data assets, data collection. So this is what I have for now. Let's take further discussion in the Q&A, and hopefully this helps you to achieve your CDMP REST endpoint use cases. Thank you so much, everyone.
Hi all, we have reached the Q&A part. Please post your questions. Do we have any questions?
Hi everyone. So I hope you had a good session. In case you want to utilize CDMP REST Accelerator pack, please raise a GCS ticket to get the collections and import package for CAI, and GCS should be able to help you with the implementation. Thank you. Let us know if you have any other question. So we have a question. The question is the data collection ID's significance. If there is any use case when you need to change it. So data collection IDs that is used in API that you have seen, those are auto-generated IDs, and I don't think we will be able to change those data collection IDs. Let me know if I have answered your question.
Okay, we see no questions coming through. We will end the webinar. Thank you, Bhavesh, for presenting today's webinar, and Mohan Raj for joining as a panelist. We kindly request audience to take up survey and give us feedback once this webcast ends. Today's webinar will be available tomorrow on Success Portal under the Resources tab. Thank you all for attending.